Shit, I didn't know AI could do that.
If you're watching this, then you've likely caught wind of the recent developments regarding artificial intelligence. From what I can tell, it's begun to inspire a real sense of fear in many different communities, especially among software engineers and artists. Watching things like ChatGPT or Midjourney trivialize things that would normally take years of practice or tons of experience is quite scary. But I think we're all worried about the wrong thing. Sure, the argument could be made that AI will render most jobs, or a lot of them, obsolete. But I would argue that it can't outright replace human beings. In fact, the problem is, the day that we manage to actually replace ourselves is also the day that we manage to create fully sentient beings. Without using traditional methods, of course. Until then, all these tools are pretty much just that, tools, available to anyone who's interested. If you ask me, having this kind of technology is kind of like handing people superpowers. Can't draw? Here's Midjourney. Can't animate? Stable Diffusion can handle it. Can't code? ChatGPT has got your back. Which means individuals can now create unimaginable things without necessarily having to commit time and energy towards learning the skills required to do so. This fundamentally changes what's required to be successful. Before AI, your success depended almost entirely on your ability to take one or two skills and develop them to the point of mastery. In other words, being a jack of all trades, but a master of none would be considered a counterintuitive approach. But with AI now to fill in the gaps, it's starting to seem like the most productive approach. Just take a look at this guy who managed to create an entire children's book using just AI tools. Or these YouTubers who managed to create functioning websites using just ChatGPT. They didn't really need much expertise to create the things that they did, and yet they could, and in a relatively short amount of time. Which of course doesn't look good for the argument that AI isn't trying to replace us. But hear me out. Would AI have ever created any of those things if a human being didn't prompt it? Probably not. The goal and the vision is almost always provided by a human, which means the creation process looks a little something like this.
It begins with an idea, which is either a solution to a problem, some form of innovation, or something completely random that would only exist because some random person just decided it should. Like this selfie toaster. Yes, it's a toaster. Yes, it takes selfies. And yes, it prints those selfies onto slices of bread.
Nobody asked for this, but here it is, in all of its glory, solving no problems, but brightening everyone's day.
The next step is figuring out what your creation is going to look like. This is the design phase, where you figure out the specifics, and the final phase is the implementation phase, where some poor sap has to leverage every creative problem-solving bone in his body to create some keyboard genes.
Yeah, these are real, by the way.
AI can replace parts of step 2 and 3, but part 1? Yeah, that's all humans, and it always will be. It's important to understand that AI is simply a tool designed to assist and augment human capabilities, not to replace us. AI doesn't have an agenda. It doesn't have an imagination, nor does it possess the capacity for moral decision making, all of which are uniquely human, which ultimately means that the future of AI is heavily dependent upon the values and goals of its creators and users, which is actually the real problem. As human beings, our capacity for good is often overshadowed by our infamous capacity for evil. The other night, I sat down with all of my AI tools with the biggest smile on my face. I was like a child with a new toy, wondering what else I can do. Could I use Midjourney to create a thumbnail for my next video? Could I use ChatGPT to write the script? Or maybe I could use Descript to create a copy of my voice to use in the video. What if I used that for a prank call?
What if I used it to impersonate someone famous or important?
What if I asked ChatGPT how to execute a DDoS attack? And it was at that moment that I started to realize just how much power I had at my fingertips. If I wanted to, I could become capable of a lot of different things, and even more not so good things. Things that before were limited to only those with an excess of knowledge and resources.
We have no shortage of examples displaying humanity at its worst, just given a tiny bit of power. Twitter gave its users the ability to purchase the well-known and respected blue check mark. And what did we do with it? The first thing we did was impersonate famous people and companies and spread misinformation, the consequences of which were definitely felt. And if that's what we did with control over the equivalent of a true or false condition, what would we do with endless libraries of user-friendly AI technology? It makes you really consider whether or not there are actually enough safeguards in place.
Short of creating sentient beings that have emotions and free thought, artificial intelligence will always be just that, artificial. Sure, it can surpass our ability to perform complex tasks in shorter periods of time, but there's one fundamental difference between us and AI. that can never be truly replicated. Our uncanny ability to not only experience emotion, but to empathize with other human beings. You see, machines are incapable of thinking outside of the box, but that's never been a big limitation. However, not all problems exist within said box. Some things require an empathetic approach, and only then can you come up with a solution. A solution which can then be broken down into small chunks, manageable by a machine, which is what most problems look like by the time they get to AI. You'd never ask AI to develop a new way to alleviate pain in the human body. That task is too broad for a machine to truly tackle. Machines don't have bodies, and therefore they don't understand pain like we do. All it knows is what we have documented and fed to it, which means we'd have to do just that. Document the problem, label our learnings, and feed that data to our AI.
My point here is, AI is really good at solving problems, but it starts to lose its effectiveness when you try to apply it to the bigger picture. We shouldn't even be afraid of AI. We should embrace it. Every time humanity thinks that AI is going to start taking our jobs, it happens, but then we start to see new types of jobs appear in the places where we thought that machines would outright replace us. It's important to realize this and begin adapting to a world that may be moving towards empowering people to add more value individually, given the right tool set, rather than just the right skill set. And for my fellow software engineers out there who are worried that things like ChatGPT are going to replace us, consider this. Our entire job revolves around being capable of adapting to a constantly changing array of technology and leveraging said technology to solve problems, whether they be simple or abstract. Remember, we're not engineers because we can write code. We're engineers because we can solve problems. That being said, I could be wrong. Or maybe there's a little truth to my take on AI. Leave a comment below and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.